It's not strangers you have to fear, it's the people sitting across from you at Thanksgiving. Every year, thousands of seniors are robbed, not by scammers online, but by their own children, grandchildren, or caregivers. The betrayal is real, the pain is lasting, and in many cases, it goes unreported until it's too late. If you think it could never happen in your family, think again. Elder financial abuse by strangers is alarming, but when the betrayal comes from someone you know, someone you love, it cuts deeper than any scam ever could. Across the country, a growing crisis is unfolding, quietly behind closed doors. Adult children taking control of bank accounts, grandchildren borrowing money that never returns, caregivers manipulating wills or convincing someone to sign over power of attorney. According to experts, over 60% of elder financial exploitation cases involve a family member. And most of the time, it's not about greed. It's about access, trust, vulnerability, the kind that only exists within families. This isn't about revenge or resentment. It's about protection, prevention, and empowering older adults to recognize when something's wrong, even when it's someone they love. In this video, we'll explore how this kind of exploitation happens, the red flags to watch for, and the concrete steps you can take to protect yourself or someone you care about from financial betrayal that leaves more than bank accounts empty. Elder financial abuse by family is one of the most hidden crimes happening today and one of the least talked about. It doesn't come with flashing warnings. It doesn't always look like theft. Often, it starts with a favor, a signature, a request to help out. But behind that quiet beginning can be something far more damaging. Because when it's your own child, grandchild, or caregiver taking advantage of you, the betrayal feels personal, and the silence feels permanent. Most victims don't report it. Not because they don't know it's happening, but because of what reporting would mean. Imagine having to choose between your dignity and your relationship with your son, or wondering if saying something will get your granddaughter in trouble or get you left alone. Many elders carry that burden in silence. They feel shame for letting it happen, guilt for thinking badly about a loved one, fear that speaking up will cause conflict, or worse, complete isolation. Some worry they won't be believed. Others are afraid of retaliation, especially when the abuser controls their money, home, or access to care. This is what makes family financial abuse so insidious. It's not just a legal issue, it's an emotional trap. And for some, that trap is nearly impossible to escape, because the truth is, many older adults are emotionally or financially dependent on the very people exploiting them. A son who lives in the basement and helps with groceries, but also drains the checking account. A daughter who handles the bills but slowly rewrites the will. A caregiver, niece, who's helpful to everyone until no one's watching. The power imbalance grows over time, and as it does, the elder's ability to resist or speak out shrinks. Even when the signs are there, many families don't want to see them. Denial is easier. No one wants to believe that someone they raised, someone they trust, could steal from them. So the issue stays buried, unspoken, dismissed as confusion or a misunderstanding. But silence doesn't make the problem go away. It makes it worse. And by the time the truth comes out, if it ever does, it's often too late. That's why awareness matters. Because behind closed doors, this crime is happening in good families, in quiet neighborhoods, and to people who never thought it could happen to them. And unless we're willing to talk about it, honestly, openly, it will keep happening. To someone else's mother, someone else's grandfather, or maybe, one day, to you. When people imagine financial abuse, they often think of strangers, phone scammers, fake charities, or internet cons. But some of the most damaging theft happens quietly, within families, and through methods that appear on the surface to be acts of help. One of the most common forms of financial exploitation is unauthorized access to bank accounts or credit cards. A family member offers to help with errands or bill paying and is added to an account. At first, it's a few purchases, a tank of gas, groceries, But then the withdrawals grow. They start using the card for personal expenses, clothing, electronics, vacations, trusting that no one will check too closely, and too often, no one does. Another method is forgery. It might start with signing a check just this once to cover a bill. But some relatives go further, signing their parents' name on loan documents, withdrawing funds without permission, or even transferring property with falsified paperwork. Many older adults don't discover this until months or years later, when their savings are gone or their name is no longer on a deed. More sophisticated abusers manipulate wills, deeds, or power of attorney. A relative might convince an elder to make it official that they'll handle things when the time comes. But once the power of attorney is signed, that trust can be twisted. They may begin selling off assets, altering inheritances, or making legal decisions that serve themselves, not the elder. And because it's legal on paper, stopping the abuse becomes even harder. Then there are loans, requests from a child or grandchild that are framed as temporary help. I just need a few thousand to get back on my feet. I'll pay you back next month. But the money never returns, and many elders, wanting to believe in their loved ones, don't follow up. Over time, this generosity can drain entire retirement accounts. Finally, one of the most emotionally manipulative tactics is taking control under the guise of helping. A relative moves in to help manage things. They start controlling who visits. They take over mail, finances, communication. Slowly, the elder becomes isolated, dependent, and financially cut off, sometimes without even realizing it. What makes all of these tactics so dangerous is how familiar they look. They wear the mask of care. They blend into family life. And by the time the damage is visible, the emotional ties make it hard to act. But just because it happens inside the family doesn't make it less real. In fact, it makes it more painful. And that's why naming these patterns matters. Because only when we see them clearly can we begin to protect ourselves and each other. Elder financial abuse doesn't always happen all at once. Often, it builds slowly, little signs here, small changes there, until one day, the truth is undeniable. But if you know what to look for, you can catch it early, and that awareness could protect a loved one from irreversible damage. One of the most common red flags is a sudden change in financial behavior. Maybe a parent who's always been cautious with money suddenly starts writing large checks or making uncharacteristic purchases. Maybe their account balances begin to drop quickly, without clear explanation. If something seems off, it probably is. Financial patterns in later life are usually steady, so any abrupt shift deserves attention. Another warning sign is unexplained withdrawals or unpaid bills. If an elder's utilities are being shut off or they've missed mortgage payments, yet they've always been financially responsible, ask why. And if you hear, "I thought my daughter was paying that," it's time to dig deeper. Sometimes the bills are being ignored. Other times, the money meant for them is being used elsewhere. Be cautious when there's a new caretaker suddenly in control, especially if that person restricts access to the elder. If they answer all the phone calls, manage every visit, or say things like, "Mom isn't feeling well, she doesn't want company," that could be a sign of control, not care. This tactic is often used to isolate the elder and block outside family or friends from noticing what's going on. And isolation itself is a huge red flag. Financial abuse thrives in silence. When elders are kept away from trusted people, they're less likely to ask questions, less likely to get help, and more likely to be manipulated. If someone is suddenly hard to reach or family members are being discouraged from visiting, ask why. Pay attention to who's setting the rules and what they may be hiding. Most importantly, trust your instincts if you notice emotional changes. If an elder seems unusually anxious, withdrawn, confused, or hesitant, especially around the person handling their money, that's a signal. Maybe they flinch when money is mentioned. Maybe they avoid eye contact or hesitate to speak in front of someone. These subtle behaviors often point to something deeper. Because in cases of family financial abuse, the fear isn't always about money. It's about what happens if they speak up. Your role isn't to accuse or confront without reason, but it is to pay attention, to ask questions, to keep the door open for conversation. Because when something doesn't feel right, chances are it isn't. And the sooner you notice the red flags, the sooner you can stop the damage before it becomes irreversible. These aren't just warnings, they're lived experiences, real stories of real people who never imagined betrayal would come from inside their own family. Margaret was 82 when she handed over her financial responsibilities to her youngest son. He told her he would handle her bills, her prescriptions, her taxes, everything she used to manage on her own. It felt like relief at first. But within a year, her savings account, nearly $70,000, 0 cents, was gone. Her home was refinanced without her knowledge. The credit cards were maxed out. "I just wanted to trust him," she said. "He was my baby. I didn't think I needed to check behind him." By the time Margaret realized what had happened, she had nothing left but her Social Security check and a mountain of debt in her name. Then there's Leonard, a retired teacher who loaned his granddaughter $20,000, 0 cents, to help her get on her feet after a divorce. She promised she'd pay it back as soon as she got a new job. That was 5 years ago. Leonard hasn't seen a single dollar, or his granddaughter. She changed her number, stopped visiting, stopped calling. "It wasn't about the money," he said quietly. "It was about what it meant, that I was disposable." And in one of the most heartbreaking cases, Dolores Doriz, an 89-year-old widow, signed over power of attorney to her nephew after a brief illness. Within months, he'd sold her home and moved her into a facility 3 states away. She wasn't told. She didn't get to say goodbye. She had no say at all. "I woke up in a new room with strangers," she said. "He told me it was for my safety. But he took everything, my home, my independence, my voice." These are not rare exceptions. These are the stories hidden behind polite family photos and holiday dinners, stories that don't always get reported, because the pain of telling them feels worse than staying silent. The emotional toll is heavier than the financial one. It's the broken trust, the silence from someone you raised, the empty chair at the table where love used to sit. Many of these victims don't want justice. They just want understanding. They want to know they weren't stupid, that their love wasn't a mistake, that someone sees them. And that's why we share these stories, not to shame families, but to shed light on what's too often kept in the dark. Because if it happened to them, it could happen to anyone. And when we speak the truth, we give others permission to speak theirs. If there's one thing these stories have made clear, it's this: love is not always a safeguard, and trust, while essential, should never come without structure. The best way to prevent financial abuse is to put guardrails in place before something goes wrong. That starts with never giving full financial control to one person without safeguards. It doesn't matter how much you love them, whether it's a child, a sibling, or a longtime caregiver. No single person should have unchecked authority over your money, your property, or your future. Whenever possible, set up dual oversight. That means 2 trusted individuals, not just one, should have visibility into bank accounts, major transactions, and key documents. It creates accountability, it slows down bad decisions, and it reduces the temptation that can come when someone is managing everything alone and unmonitored. Legal tools like durable power of attorney or trusts can be essential, especially if someone becomes unable to manage their own affairs. But these tools must be used wisely and with guidance. Consult an elder law attorney. Make sure the documents are specific, protective, and include checks and balances. Power of attorney should be a safety net, not a blank check. One simple but powerful strategy is to review bank statements regularly. Not once a year, but monthly. Whether it's a trusted family member, a financial advisor, or third-party service, make sure someone is scanning for unusual withdrawals, strange purchases, or missed payments. What seems like a minor oversight today could reveal something much bigger tomorrow. And finally, talk. Talk openly, talk early, talk often. Financial transparency doesn't have to mean giving away control. It means creating a culture in your family where asking questions is normal, where updates are shared, where silence isn't the default. So many cases of elder financial abuse thrive because no one wanted to pry. But the truth is, checking in is an act of love. You don't need to assume the worst, you just need to stay involved. Because prevention isn't about paranoia, it's about preparation, about making sure your later years are marked by peace, not regret, and about sending a clear message to anyone who might think about crossing the line. Someone's watching, someone cares. And silence is no longer part of the plan. Even with all the precautions, elder financial abuse can still happen. And when it does, when the unthinkable becomes real, it's easy to freeze, to go quiet, to hope it'll somehow work itself out. But silence only makes it worse, and guilt? That doesn't belong to you. If you or someone you love has been financially exploited by a family member, you're not alone, and you're not powerless. The first step is reaching out. Contact your local adult protective services. Every state has an APS agency, and their role is to investigate and respond to situations exactly like this. You can also speak with a trusted elder law attorney who understands how to navigate legal protections, reclaim assets, and prevent further damage. You may not be able to recover everything that was taken. Recovering stolen assets is difficult, especially if they've been spent or hidden. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't report it. Because when you speak up, you're not just standing up for yourself. You're stopping the cycle. You're preventing the same thing from happening to someone else. Most importantly, don't let guilt or fear keep you silent. That's exactly what abusers count on. They hope you'll feel too embarrassed, too ashamed, or too conflicted to do anything. They rely on your loyalty to protect their wrongdoing. But here's the truth, it's not betrayal to speak up. It's protection. Protecting your dignity, your future, your peace of mind, and yes, even protecting others in your family from falling into the same dangerous dynamic. If you're a loved one who suspects abuse, don't ignore your instincts. Don't wait for proof. Start the conversation. Ask questions. Offer support. Many elders won't come forward unless someone else breaks the silence first. And if you've already been through this, if you've made that call, filed that report, or confronted someone close to you, know that your courage matters. You did something many people never do. You stopped it. You stood up. And you deserve peace, not shame. Financial abuse is theft, period. It may wear the mask of family, but at its core, it's a violation of trust and humanity, and it's one we can stop by listening, by acting, and by never letting love be used as a weapon. You didn't cause this, but you can help end it. And in doing so, you're not just protecting money, you're reclaiming something much more important, your voice. Betrayal from strangers hurts, but betrayal from blood leaves scars we don't talk about. It cuts deeper than money, deeper than documents or account balances. It strikes at the core of what we believe family is supposed to be: safe, loving, loyal. When that foundation cracks, it doesn't just shake your trust in one person, it makes you question everything. That's why this issue matters so much, because elder financial abuse isn't just about theft. It's about silence, about shame, and about breaking a cycle that too many families pretend isn't happening. But silence protects the wrong people. If something feels off, if you're being rushed, excluded, kept in the dark, or treated more like a burden than a person, trust your instincts. Your body, your heart, your gut, they know when something's not right. You don't need proof to ask questions. You don't need permission to protect yourself, and you don't need to suffer in silence just to keep the peace. Because real peace is having control over your life. It's knowing your choices are yours. It's being surrounded by people who honor your voice, not override it. And if you're a loved one watching this, don't be afraid to check in. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Talk about finances before there's a problem. Offer support without judgment. Because one honest conversation can be the difference between quiet devastation and meaningful protection. No one wants to believe their own family could take advantage of them, but pretending it can't happen only makes it easier for it to happen again. You deserve better. Family should be your safest place, not the source of your fear. So speak up, ask questions, set boundaries, review documents, share your concerns. Protect your peace, protect your future, and above all, know this: you are not alone. Thousands of older adults are walking through this very pain right now, and every time one of us speaks out, we help someone else find their voice. That's how healing begins. That's how cycles end. And that's how we make sure the love we've given our whole lives isn't used against us, but honored, protected, and returned with the respect we deserve. If this message resonated with you or reminded you of someone you love, don't let it stop here. Share this video. Start the conversation. You never know whose silence you might help break. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Elderly Truths for more real stories, honest guidance, and the support every older adult deserves. Together, we can shine a light on what's too often hidden and protect the people who've spent a lifetime protecting everyone else. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay informed, and above all, trust your instincts. You matter. Your voice matters, and you are never alone.